how this thing works. All right, y'all. What's up? It's your man BJ Joyce coming at you live again on the Black Friday show. Y'all know we're on Facebook. We're starting to push to YouTube now, so bear with me. I want to make sure that the Book of Faces is going live real quick. Mark Zuckerberg has this thing on lock a little bit. Zuckerberg. I always every time I say Zuckerberg, I think of like Charlotte's Web and like Zuckerman. So Zuckerman's famous pig, right? Good old Wilbur. So I think Facebook is Zuckerberg's famous pig, and that's just what I'm sticking to. So, yep. So Sheri, I am going to introduce you in just un momento. We are going to push this out to our almost 32,000 group members in the Carl Black owned and operated Facebook group. And we are going to make sure that they know to tune in right now and listen to us talk about the wealth gap. So I am almost there. Give me just a second. For y'all who are tuning in already, go ahead and like, share out the video, say all the great things about us, about me. I know there's a lot of great things you can say about me. There's a lot of bad things you can say about me, mainly because you don't know me and you just have a lot of assumptions and opinions. But we ain't gonna talk about that right now. We're gonna talk about Sheri. What's up, Sheri? Welcome to the show. It's the Black Friday show. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I'm
Great.
off today, so it's great.
Hey, yeah, I hear you. It's snowing out there too right now. So I mean, it's a good day to be off and not have to go out in that traffic, right?
Absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
that
So,
is wonderful. Well, hey, y'all, I do want to introduce you. So Sheri is an educator. She is an educator extraordinaire, I'm gonna say. But I really want you, Sheri, to go ahead and just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll dive into the topic of the day, which is talking about the wealth gap between Black people and white people. So I'll let you take it away, and then we'll jump in.
okay. So I call myself an educator because I kind of do all the things. I do currently teach children in school. Not today because we're on vacation, so that makes me pretty happy. But starting back on Monday, I'll be in my 8th grade ELA classroom. Um, I'm a certified or a social studies teacher here in Colorado, but I do my own Black history classes online. I'm certified in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I do classes on that and anti Blackness. I do facilitation. I'm a life and goal coach. So just in general, I like to educate people. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to do a little history, a little economics, what should we do about what's going on right now?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so I love history. I'm a super history nerd. We're gonna talk. I'm gonna talk to you about this civil rights tour that I just recently did down in Alabama.
Cool.
Yeah, and it was. I'm gonna give you a secret. It was free.
Really?
Yeah. No. Well, let me back up. Let me back up. One. All I had to do was pay for my plane ticket, have a little skin in the game, kind of thing, right?
Okay.
But other than that, everything else is like the tours, the food, the hotels, no charge.
Wow. Yeah, we need to talk about that. I would love to do that.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Went down there to Montgomery, Alabama, Selma, and Birmingham. We went across the stupid Robert Pettis Bridge. I'm going to call it stupid Robert Pettis Bridge because, or Edmund, that's right, I say Robert Edmund Pettis. Sorry, stupid Edmund Pettis Bridge. Because yeah, like he should get no like glory or praise for being Grand Dragon KKK, of the KKK and all that, and especially everything that happened on Bloody Sunday there. And yeah, no, so I'm not going to honor that stupid bridge. I didn't even take a picture with the bridge name. I took a picture of the quote like bridge going, but I didn't want his name because I didn't want him like memorialize him in there at all. And so that's how much I kind of disdain like KKK members. So but yeah, we went and did that. We like went to where the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing happened, where the 4 girls were killed. And like saw all these like crazy things there. Went to the Equal Justice Initiative museum there in Montgomery, and whoa, that was crazy. Like that is one place I think every black person in America like has to go. That's like almost should be a defined pilgrimage of your life to go to that Equal Justice Initiative Museum. Like, wow. Yeah, and then we also like positive thing about like all the civil rights history. So you remember the whole boat incident where the guy throws the hat and they're all fighting like the people like out down
Mhm.
there. So we
Launching.
went to where the boat was in
Okay.
Montgomery.
Oh, fun. That's fantastic.
We took pictures and everything. I got a picture of me like not throwing my hat, but like holding my hat up like in the air, like kind of replicating it. I think we got a picture of the chair too, or a chair, like not necessarily the chair, but a chair there. So that was kind of like all right, we got that one. So anyway,
I love it. I love it. Oh
yeah,
my
so
goodness.
we'll definitely talk more about that for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. So let's talk about this wealth gap. What kind of things were you wanting to point out specifically about the wealth gap? Because recently I was looking at a number that showed, I want to say it was like either 2021 or 2022, that there was numbers of the average black household had $17,000 in wealth, where the average white household had 170 plus thousand.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it's crazy. Yes.
Right. $17,000. I
Yes.
mean, I want to be like kind of like Cat Williams, where he's like, I got that on me, like for me personally, but I'm just like, dang, like if that's the average.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the problem. So when we're looking at the numbers, so the recent numbers that came out that Biden was touting before he left was that the wealth gap, it's still widening, by the way, but we were at 23%. So we had 23 cents for every dollar that a white person had. But some of the other numbers that we've seen is like 12 cents or 17 cents. And what you have to look at is it's not just how much money you have in the bank, how much your house is worth, how much debt do you have? So it's just like those student loans are going to bring it down, how much you owe on your car, all of those kinds of things. So that is what's, bringing down some of that number there
Mm-hmm.
to that $17,000, because you're just like, what the heck? And then
Yeah.
there are just so many other factors that go into it. The only group that actually has a higher wealth gap than white people are Asians, and most of those
Mm,
come from China or Japan. So we're not talking about like the Korean Asians and stuff like that.
yeah.
But yeah, so it's pretty terrible when you think about the fact that we've literally built this country from slave labor to forced labor after slavery to now we're on the corporate plantations, still making less money than white folks. So it's just, yeah,
Yeah.
$17,000.
Yeah. That's nuts. And I mean, we are in such. I mean, when I look at the economic state of Black people, we don't own anything, right? And that's really what attributes to a lot of this wealth gap, right? Is that we don't own anything. We didn't own land back then because we were owned property on somebody else's owned land, so to speak, stolen land. We'll say that. Don't let that go without saying. But stolen land that was then claimed and owned by somebody else who is white, who then owned stolen people. And then 1865 happens, right? Civil War ends. We're free, but we still have nothing. Like what am I being freed with? I don't own anything. I was property. How does property then own something if they've never owned it before, and there was never any restitution? I'm not going to say reparations because everybody hates that word. Apparently, I'm going to say restitution.
I love it too.
Hey, I'm on the Denver Black Reparations Council, so I push it all day. But I'm going to say restitution, right? Because I want to use a legal term. That's why I'm specifically using restitution, so that we can legally get the reparations for the damage that was done and the harm that we then were experiencing by being placed into here. You're free with nothing. good luck. You don't have a culture, you don't have an economic system, you don't have ideologies, you don't have philosophies. You literally were a shovel or a power tool equivalent, right? And now go have fun. No family structure. And so what did we do? We started trying to emulate for survival what we did see from the white folks of how to act, how to operate, but it's not our own and it never will be our own. And we still weren't able to achieve ownership per se. And even when we did achieve ownership, we were then terrorized and brutalized to give it up in some ways. And even today, that's happening where we could build a business. It could be thriving, it could be growing. And then you have the conglomerates that look at and say two things. Either one, you're competing with our direct product and we want you to sell to us. They might give you the sell to us option, or we're going to leverage all of the massive supply chain that we have in influence and say, if you guys provide them with their product that they need to complete their final product, then we're going to move our business elsewhere, and therefore you get blackballed. So your only option is to either shut down or sell, and then if you do sell to them, they kill your product. And so therefore you don't have a black owned business. And we have that because we don't own, again, anything within the supply chain to be able to stave off that kind of retaliation or attack against black business. So in my mind, the reason why we have even more of a disparate wealth gap, right, is not only because the labor force that we've given America for 400 plus years, right? But in addition to that, the things that are happening now, we're still unable to own anything. What do you think about that?
I agree. And on top of that, so here's what I really love about us. Like, we always find a way. We always make a way. So even after even during
chitlins, and they still eat chitlins today. So we find a way to get some food,
but during Reconstruction,
mm-hmm.
We had a little bit, but nothing too crazy. And then Jim Crow comes in. But look at Tulsa, look at places.
Mm-hmm.
We had places here in Colorado that have been drowned, that have been burned to the ground, those kinds of things. And anytime we got something, you had mediocre white folks out there who were jealous and wanted to take it away, because how dare you have more than what we have? So not only did, we have enslavement, and then you have Jim Crow. You don't have a say in anything. We couldn't vote. That right for men was taken away, and then when white women got the right to vote in 1919, it was we still weren't voting because we didn't have the protected right to vote, so we still didn't have a say. Part of the reason why they talk about this wealth gap and why it's so big, and I just love it because, DEI is the big thing that people are tripping about right now. And it's just like, well, I think people should be able to get a job based on their merit and based on this and this. Well, if we can't get into the schools, if we can't get the education, if we can't get, or if it's harder for us to get the training, if we're not, and then when we do, we're still a DEI hire. It's just like, I have a master's degree. Yeah. I'm very skilled. So like, I have lots of certifications. I have all these things. But, people will be like, oh, she's a DEI hire, especially in my school district. This is my first year there, and I went into orientation, new teacher orientation, and I walk in and I'm like, woo, and I'm looking around for my people because I got to go sit with them, right? And then I was just like,
it's just you.
It was literally just me, and I was
you are the people.
I'm the people.
Yeah.
And now we have another Black ELA teacher, which is fantastic. We've got a Black science teacher, but it's just like, we have two in our school. But when I was hired, it was going to be me, the person who runs tech, and the police officer. That was it.
Yeah.
In this pretty big middle school, and it's Title I. So it's pretty diverse. It wasn't like it was just a whole bunch of little rich white kids, but we don't have representation where we need representation. And a lot of like about 18% of white wealth is wealth that is generational.
Mm,
So it is passed down. So we don't have anything that we're passing down.
mm,
In the 1970s, home ownership was at 42% for Black Americans. We're at 46% right now.
yeah,
We
yeah,
came up 4%
yeah,
in 50 years.
and
Like,
that's
come on now.
the national. Here in Colorado, it's 42 still.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they were selling a garage, like a renovated garage apartment in Five Points for like almost $500,000.
Yep.
Who's
Yep.
if we only have 23 cents for every dollar that white people have,
Right.
not to mention the fact that we're getting paid less for doing the same jobs that white people are doing,
Hmm.
where is this money going to come from to buy this overpriced garage in Five Points?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. And yeah, what like,
Right.
I don't even get it.
Well, so you bring up a lot of good points, right? And I want to touch on this most recent one of like we don't pass anything down, right? We don't have, and so that leads me into an unpopular opinion that people probably hate me for, is gentrification, right? And how we talk about at a larger scale. I'm in the not talking about gentrification this way, but the majority of Black people talk about gentrification of look at white people coming into our neighborhood, buying our homes, and then turning them into nice homes and raising the property value. And now we can't live here, right? And I say that's BS, one. And here's why. You had the home, you sold the home, and you sold it to the white people. While you had the home, you did nothing with it, right? You weren't improving, you weren't throwing paint on there, you weren't fixing the door, you weren't fixing, the window, you weren't keeping it up. And then when grandma died, you sold the house. And so therefore she did technically pass it down to you potentially, right? But then you sold it. So when we do have stuff in terms of like property, like home ownership, we're giving it away anyway. So that $500,000 garage, right? That's going on in the Five Points in Denver. That could have been somebody's place that they had from grandma, probably a Black person that they cashed out, right? They got that money from selling grandma's house that they didn't have any claim, so quote unquote claim to, until grandma passed it anyway. So they were doing whatever they were doing without that home, right? And then you have this opportunity, this asset, this appreciating asset that you gave up. So in my viewpoint of this, of how we look at gentrification, is that gentrification has been more our fault than anybody else's. And when I say our, I mean collectively Black people who are giving up their property for pennies on the dollar that they haven't taken care of. They as an example, we could easily mow the lawn. We could easily go out there with a bucket of paint and paint the home, and we could increase the value of our properties. But right now, in a lot of the, I'll say, quote, ghettos, dilapidated areas that Black people live in across the country, they are not doing those things. And then we get upset when we sell the homes. White people come in, they purchase them, they put 10, 20, $30,000 into a house that they might have bought for 10, 20, $30,000. And then they flip it for $150,000, right? And we're upset at that. Well, we could have done the same thing.
Could we though? I mean, because $10,000-$20,000 is a big deal, and we've already established that we we have less than a quarter of what these people have. These white people who are coming in and flipping the house. So it's just like, where is the $10,000 or $20,000 going to come from?
Over time.
You know,
right? Because they're doing it like right today and then flipping it within a couple of months, right?
Yes.
Whereas that house, let's say grandma's owned that house for 40 years. Where you been? right? Where have you been for 40 years? Like, you don't have to throw $20,000-$30,000 into it overnight, but fix the window, mow the lawn, fix the fence. Like, that stuff happens. Like, I don't do that with my house. Like, there's things I need to fix around here, and I'm like, man, that's gonna wait, but I'm gonna do this other thing, and I'm gonna maintain that, right? Just general maintenance. We don't even do that. And so therefore, like, the value of what we do have is low because we're not putting anything into it. And instead, we will go out and buy those $3,000 rims for that car. We'll buy those $250 Jordans for our feet, but we won't fix the window for 150 bucks.
I think that is all by design as well, but that's a conversation for another day. Sheri actually come out on that one.
But do you see how that contributes to like our wealth gap then, is that even when we gain resources,
yes,
we're giving that away, which goes back to your point of we're not passing things down. Even when we do pass things down, it gets sold for pennies on the dollar instead of like invested into and held as an asset. So that's part of this increasing wealth gap is we have to look at ourselves and take ownership for what we can control as well. There are other things beyond our control, systematic, institutionally, that we cannot control. We can start trying to change and influence, but for the things that we can control, we're also failing at that as well. Would you agree?
I believe that, yes, there is a certain segment of society, of our society, that is failing at that. Yes. But I also know very successful people who are keeping up their houses and doing, and starting to pass some things down, which is fantastic. Good. And the other thing that we also need to look at too is making sure that you have really good wills in place, because
talk about that, Sheri. Talk about it.
We get messed over so much by family. Once somebody died, they think, oh, somebody's going to come in and this is going to go to this person and this is going to go to this person. But even so, I like to watch. I watch a little trash TV, So I like to watch The Real Housewives of Potomac. And Giselle right now is going through a big legal battle with her dad's estate because somebody is contesting it and that kind of stuff, even though he had like a really solid will. So even, so people are fighting over the dead relative's money all the time, which then ties up some of that money in the legal battle. So you're not going to get as much in the end. Yeah. And then, a lot of times this stuff doesn't go to the right people, or we don't necessarily know how to pass down things without the people that we're giving it to incurring a ridiculous expense, because that inheritance tax is crazy. But white families have figured out, how to bypass some of that by creating different financial entities and things like that, so that they can pass down their wealth to their children without them having to incur a lot of those things. Not to mention, once you get up into certain tax brackets, the taxes go down. So you're paying less than the rest of us. So not only are we making less and we have less, but we're also paying more in taxes than they are. And they're able to pass things down. And it's just, and then people want to say, well, I did it. I worked hard. My family were immigrants and they came over here, and they never had to deal with the kind of things that we've had to deal with. Like literally anytime we have tried to step up, we've gotten pushed back down. And not everybody gets back up after that. Because even, using Tulsa as an example, they burned it to the ground. There were a whole bunch of people who were still able to rebuild. They wouldn't sell them the fireproof materials to allow them to rebuild. Right. So, you're going to put all these obstacles in the way on purpose and then be like, why don't you get up?
Right.
Why don't you get up? And it's just, so for me,
because you keep holding me down. That's why.
Why are we letting that happen? Why are we continuing to try to assimilate into this society that's not ours, and then getting really, really angry when we have 23 cents for every dollar that they have? Right. Why are we getting angry that they're burning our stuff down? Yeah. Why are we Why are we trying? I think for me, integration was probably the worst thing for the Black community.
100%. 100%. I'll let you say it one more time. Go ahead. Repeat.
Integration was the worst thing for the Black community.
Yes, it was.
We lost our churches, we lost our schools, we lost our touch points, our leaders, we lost our businesses, we lost our communities and our housing. If we wanted to go and protest right now for, some of the things that are happening in the country, a lot of us are going to sit there and go, I don't know if I should do that because I might get seen at this protest and I might lose that 6-figure job working for this white dude. We're back in the day, we worked at the grocery store with you. So we just shut it down and went and did what we needed to do. It's just like we were much more cohesive, and we need to bow out of white society. They don't want us here, and I don't understand like how many more hundreds of years we need to figure that out.
Right.
Because like we were here, we were useful while we were enslaved, then we've just been a nuisance. And even, we just had President's Day. Abraham Lincoln was just like, hey, I don't really care about freeing these slaves. It's really just about the Union. And, they just need to deal with the fact that they're going to be second-class citizens for forever because, there's always going to be a superior and inferior race. And I think that white folks should be the superior ones.
Yeah.
This is the dude getting the credit from everybody for freeing us. And it's just like, come on now. Then, everybody thought that it was going to be great once we could go to their schools and live in their neighborhoods and do all of those kinds of things. And it's just, look at us right now.
Think about this, Sheri. What other ethnic group has been told to integrate into white society?
That part.
Only us, right? They didn't say you could still be separate and get equal protection under the law with equal opportunity. They didn't say that. Everybody else got that, but Black people, they said, we're going to integrate you. So essentially, here's my picture of what happened to us, right? And then I want to hit some of these comments because they're flooding real quick. So, but here's the picture of what happened with integration is we're all on a block, right? We're on a block, and there's the white house, there's the brown house, there's the Asian house, there's the Arab house, there's all these other houses, right? They all have their house. Well, Black people, we don't have a house, right? And what they said is white people said, all right, you can come into our house, but you're going to be in the place that we tell you to, which is, in the bathroom right next to the toilet in the basement, right? And that's where you get to live. And the food in the fridge, you don't get to touch that. And if you do get to touch that, it's going to be potato salad with raisins in it. It's our type of food. It's going to be food that ain't got no seasoning on it. Okay. So that's what you get. You don't get to make any modifications around here. No improvements. You don't get to change anything. You don't get to raise your voice. You don't get to sit at our table and eat. Matter of fact, the dogs are going to get the crumbs before you get the crumbs. Okay. But guess what? This is where you're going to be. Have at it. Are you happy now? Instead of, we should have been allowed to get our piece of land on the block, build our own house, and people will say, well, we did, Tulsa, so on and so forth. Yes, but be able to get it that if it does get bombed, right, that the people who bomb it then are prosecuted, which there is the equal protection under the law. And then we're able to rebuild it without any barriers that they put on, onto us. And we can still thrive, or we could survive first off, and then start working towards being able to thrive like all the other ethnic groups on the block. And if we are able to do that, here's the benefit that we don't talk about. If we're able to do that, now guess what? Now we're paying property taxes, and again, this is just my real estate analogy, but we're paying property taxes. We're contributing to the HOA. We're improving the beautification of the neighborhood. So not only, instead of like this empty dirt lot that's looking, overgrown and tragic, whatever, now we have a nice property on there that's being taken care of, and it contributes to the overall neighborhood. So now all of America is doing better when we do better. But that's not the case, because at integration, we said, no, we'd rather just basement, right? Let me hit some of these comments and then we'll react to that. Okay. Wild Boy Farm, hey, black-owned farm in Colorado. Love you, Terrence. Wild Boy Farm, one of two that I know of. He says, "How does us being consumers play a role in the wealth gap?" What do you think, Sheri?
Well, that's kind of funny because we were talking a little bit about this last night. We need to buy black. We need to build black. We need to hire black. We need to rent to black. We need to do literally what everyone else is doing within their own communities.
100%.
So it's just like they support their own stores. But for us, we've bought into this anti-black narrative that everything that we do is subpar. So you'll get these people who will be like, I ain't gonna go to that store because they stuff is, janky, or they're, whatever. They would much rather buy from white people. But we have to keep our money in our communities just like everyone else is doing in their own communities.
Right.
And that also means understanding that people have to make money. So when you go to these restaurants, when you go to the stores, stop trying to get stuff for free. Stop trying to get people's services and time and expertise for free. Do not undervalue yourself. If you have, when I was starting my coaching business, I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of new to this. Maybe I should. I've been coaching for 25 years. I've been a teacher for forever. I've been doing goal coaching for forever. What am I talking about? Like, I'm new to this. No, I'm not going to, charge $50 an hour. I'm going to charge the $150 to $200 that everybody else is charging. It's like, stop devaluing yourself and stop expecting other people to devalue their services like it's any less valuable than the white services that are out there.
Right.
If you're going to pay Becky $200 for coaching, you're going to pay Sheri $200 for coaching. If you're going to pay this dude, $10,000 for a speaking engagement, you're going to pay the black one that much too. So it's just like, stop trying to get stuff for nothing. It's bad business. So it's 100%. And then I'm having a hard time trying to figure out where to shop lately. It's just like, I want to shop at black grocery stores. I want to go to, we've got a couple of black restaurants around that, in my opinion, are decent. Then we have some that I'm just like absolutely never going to set foot in again. Yeah. We also need to learn how to do business better so that we don't have people going, hey, I don't want to go there. I'm not going to name the name of the place, but we went for a ladies' brunch and we're there and we're having a good time. And the food was and they didn't really have too many servers. It was bootleg. It was really bootleg. And we're sitting there and they had opened a little early for us. And there was like 40 professional black women looking great. All that kind of stuff, sitting there, getting ready to eat. Food wasn't even completely out yet. And the manager comes out and says, you don't have to leave, but we are trying to get ready for our regular brunch crowd. You have 40 professional black women in a black establishment who could bring people here for business meetings. They could, all sorts of things. But instead, you just treated me like I'm your broke cousin who is getting food for free. There were no specials. There was no anything. And as a black woman making 23 cents on the dollar less than this white man over here, my money goes even less far. So if I'm giving you my money, I'm expecting you to treat me like you would them. But instead, you literally, we're like, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get up out of here so we can feed these white folks. And I'm like, so I got my stuff. I had to put in a box, paid my bill, and I was like, I will never be back. So now when I go, I'll go to Mimosas. I love it there. I'm so glad that Welton Street is back open. I haven't been yet, but it's like that was some of the best service that I had ever gotten. Nice. But yet and then I go to some other places and it's just sort of like, how are you still here?
Right. Right.
So we need to do better business if we want people to be consumers, but we also need to go to those places so that they can hire more wait staff. Yeah. And they can do some of those things. It's just, it's kind of a catch-22, but yes, I'm all about keeping it with us because that's what everybody else does. That's the reason why we've got this wealth gap that we have currently. So
there has to be that social contract between consumer and business within our ethnic group, to where the business is doing professional business, especially for Black people if they're Black, right?
Mhm.
Especially like there, it should be somebody Black come into my, if hypothetically, if I own a restaurant, somebody Black come into my restaurant, I should be treating them like I would grandma, right?
Mhm.
Like they get all the treatment of grandma, right? Now somebody white come in a restaurant, I'm still going to treat them good, because I still want to be business, like, you know, I want to do good business and I want to reflect that regardless. But like, they ain't getting grandma treatment, you know what I'm saying? Like, they ain't getting grandma
No.
treatment. They'll get I want your money treatment. But Black people come in, you getting grandma treatment, right? You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, that's how we need to have that contract. But then also, yes, we need to have better professionalism within business overall, so that we are having professional businesses. And I've heard we don't have mentors, we don't know what it's like to have professional business. Like, BS. You work for these businesses, you go and patronize these businesses, you can observe and see exactly how it's supposed to be, or how you would like it to be done, or the expectation, the general baseline expectation of how business is done in America, and build your business with that as your benchmark, and strive to go higher every day,
Mhm.
right? So that kind of stuff, like, we definitely need to do. And then, conversely, as the consumer, as you said, like, if we go and spend money there, they can then get money to increase their business, to hire more servers, or more staff, to put more tools in place at the business, to grow it, to build it, to hire more of us. So then we can be those people where, like, I don't have to try and go beg the white man for a job at the corporate plantation. I can go work for Black owned businesses. And that, Wild Boyd, is how us as consumers, in my opinion, play a big role in the wealth gap. Because as we start spending money with Black owned businesses, and they grow and they hire more of us, and they, build these conglomerates that our white counterparts and all these other counterparts are doing out here, now we are now insulating ourselves from the systems and the oppression that happened within those systems to us today, and allow us then to go and pay, living wages to us, to our people, and have a protected um, economic environment outside of the corporate plantation world, right?
Mhm.
Let me get to some of these other comments. Kellen says he says, I created my own company and grew it to a national level and still got called a DEI hire. Yeah, sorry about that, Kellen. Dre White says, exactly, well said. I think that he was chiming in when we were talking about gentrification. Says, I see and hear it every day in my industry. And then he added to your wills conversation, wills and adding beneficiaries to your accounts. It makes it easy. Have those estate conversations. Trust accounts. Put everything in the family trust. Use it as a family loan account. Facts. Yep. What would be Wild Boy Farm says, what would be the plan on breaking apart? Do we own enough natural resources to sustain our economy? That's a bigger thought. And then there's a couple others. Let me come back to that. Let me just see. MLK Marade says, good morning. Good morning, Galen. What's up, buddy? Over at Real Property Inspections. If you guys need an inspection, hit up Galen Johnson at Real Property Inspections for commercial or rental, or your personal residence. All right. And then I want to hit back with Wild Boy. Let me finish this one last comment. Kellen says, I think it depends on how much we want to break away. Oh, he's responding to Wild Boy. Economic, geographic, etc. I don't think it happens in any nice way, unfortunately. But let's go back to that comment. Wild Boy Farm says, what would be the plan on breaking apart? Do we own enough natural resources to sustain our economy? What do you think, Sheri?
That is a very good question. Um,
It is. It's really
I
good.
don't know. I don't know, because we're so spread apart. It's kind of hard to figure out like who has what and who could do what. Like to I would love to start a Black school. It's just like, who's gonna pay me though? It's
Right.
just like, because I still have to have a place to live. I still have to do, the lights and this and this. But I'm sure that there are people out there, they've talked about building communities,
Yeah.
all Black communities again. Um, Who knows? I just don't. I feel like because here in Colorado, it's very different than being in some of the southern states or even in Chicago, places in New York, LA, where it's just like we have big sections where we are. You go to the south side of Chicago, there we are. It's just like go to the south suburbs. Hi, how you doing? Atlanta, that kind of stuff. But then when people come out here, we're looking around and it's just like we rarely see another black face, so it's kind of hard to figure out what everybody is doing. I mean, there's the other site that's out there, but it's not super active, and mostly it's like where we gonna turn up later, so it's there's not a lot of those conversations. I've actually considered doing a Facebook group for entrepreneurs. I am one, but I'm not super successful right now. But what I can do is I'm definitely an organizer and a planner. I ran an entire Democratic committee. I've
Hey, there you go.
managed kids for forever and ever. So it's like, so I'm thinking about doing something like that so that we can find each other, and figure out who does what,
Mhm.
so that we can figure out what kind of resources that we might actually have out there for real. Because you know i I know that a lot of us live in Denver and over in Aurora. I'm in the Broomfield area because when I got divorced, the school that I taught at was off Sheridan. So it was much easier for me, to get to that side of town from this side of town than on the other side of town. And we have a few black folks out here in the Boulder um, area. We've got like a little group that we get together once in a while, but there aren't that many of us. So it's just like I don't know where everyone's at. So, and eventually I'll go back down into the city. It's just, yeah, it's we're everywhere.
Yeah, I would touch on this thought, and then Wild Boyd says, "How would you get your electricity? How would you get your water?" And I'm going to lump that into this particular loop. Um, I, as far as like, do we have the resources to completely break away? No, because a we are individuals within an ethnic group that doesn't have our own land within America, right? Like we don't have a sovereign nation within a nation like the native tribes do now, right? So unless we were to, uh, you know, as part of like a reparations restitution deal with the federal government, carve out, I would say, the entire like southern states specifically for us. Mainly because that's where our climate should be anyway, and like all the white people can have everything cold up north. um, but like unless we were able to carve out like something like that and say, all right, here's black America, right? um, then we won't have natural resources because it us living in the United States of America, we're all subject to, um, this is a bigger topic, but subject to the United States Constitution and the protection of that and what that holds, right? For our land borders and so on and so forth. So
The selective use of the
I
Constitution.
know that was going to bring that kind of thing. But we're supposed to be governed by the United States Constitution. That said, nobody like has control of the natural resources except for the federal government and then the states therein, right? So no ethnic group does. Now, as far as if you want to take it to a different space and say, do we have the ability to segment ourselves like other ethnic groups? Yes, we do. And like not just here in Denver, but like collectively across the nation, it's we have to be intentional though about supporting and building a culture for black people around supporting black people, right? And
Yes.
because right now we don't have that. We think that we're white, and that because we integrated, not any other ethnic group, we integrated, and so we think that we're going to do it just like the white people do. Well, the reason why the white people like are able to do that is because they have the benefit of power.
They are the top of the power structure, and so they can be individuals, whereas all the other ethnic groups that we should be following don't. And so that's why they use group economics, collective culture to build and to grow. So we have to be intentional about building that, having conversation, and it's going to have to start small. We can't, and it's not going to happen overnight. So it's going to take time. It's going to take a small group of people that are doing that intentional work, and then growing and expanding and getting a few others here, there, other states, so on and so forth. And then it becomes a movement, but that's going to take years. It's not going to take tomorrow. But can it be done? And do we have it now to do so? I believe we do. We just have to start, right?
Yeah. And, when I think about things like electricity and water, solar panels, it's just like, okay, we can get solar. That's not terrible.
Yeah, if we want to do off grid, that kind of thing. Yeah.
We can do wells. People used to do wells and water filtration and that kind of stuff. That's not too crazy. I just think about how Abraham Lincoln, again, one of the things that he was trying to get into place before he was assassinated was literally a place for Black people to go. And it was going to be, part of it. Yeah. And it was like literally those lovely hotel areas now, in the South, like in North Carolina and South Carolina and on the coast and things like that, is like that technically was going to be like where we were going to go, and then Johnson killed that after Lincoln was killed. So, that would have been amazing. They'll never give us the South, but it is. And then when you look at, like you were talking about tribal land, they literally gave them the crap pieces of land. And then when they found things that were valuable on the land, tried to take that away too. So it's just sort of like, it's never going, I don't think it's ever going to work here. And unfortunately, when I look at it, my history here in America is very, very complicated. My mother's side came over on the Mayflower, so they're literally responsible for this crap. And then my father's side, I have 7 different types of enslaved Africans, so it's just like we have this very interesting history, and it's just like, where do you go? What do you do? Where are we going? But we've got to do something, because this integration thing isn't working. I'm not sure how long it's going to take for us to realize that, because it's already been 400 years. They don't want us here. They don't. They want nothing to do with us, really. They, regardless of how educated, how talented, how any of they're going to, the only thing that they want from us is our ideas and our labor and our, whatever it is that they can take and make money from themselves, and, not us. I don't know. Where do we go? What do we do? Yeah. Do we make our own little communities? And then what happens? Are they going to burn those down again too? How are we going to protect that? Because we have a historical legacy in this country of us building and growing, and then you have people getting ticked off and burning it to the ground. So it's just like, and that's our generational wealth. Those people in Tulsa should have been able to pass down those businesses and everything else for the past 100 years to the people, to their future generations, and it's gone. And that happened to 100 and how many other cities in the United States, not to mention the ones that then were drowned as well. So either set on fire or drowned because they got too successful, and they got to, and it's just like, oh, we need a pond here instead. Yeah. We need some entertainment instead of this Black neighborhood. And it's not like we got compensated for it. The beaches that were stolen and all of those kinds of things that some people are now starting to get back. It's crazy. So I don't know where to go to do this. But I'm not married to this place either. It's just like, I just got back from the Caribbean and my skin was happy and my hair was curly. And I was like, woo, I'm like, I need to come back here, so I need to go back to where my ancestors are from. And,
that's part of that too, right? Is like, we need to, we do need to do something like collectively of the Black Americans that are here, right? The Native Black Americans that are here. But then we need to look at how white people are tied to Europe, and they vacation there and they do business there. The whole Marshall Plan, again, set up because they had to save white people. You didn't see a Marshall Plan for the Japanese, did you? No. They were like, nah, F them Japanese. They don't look like us. But
At least they
sure
got
enough,
some reparations.
right. But sure enough, for Europe, we did a Marshall Plan, which is taking U.S. citizen tax dollars to rebuild Europe, by the way, who are not citizens. Could we do the same thing here for blacks? Yes, we could. So that could be our reparation strategy, is building a Marshall Plan for us. I've heard a couple other people talk about that. You might know of a guy like Claude Anderson, Boyce Watkins, those kind of guys. They've talked about some of that stuff before. So yeah, I follow right in line with that. But
I love Claude Anderson.
You do? Yeah. Claude's a guy.
Boyce is my homie. So it's just like, we talk about these things a lot.
Powernomics. I love that book, Powernomics. Yeah. Black Labor, White Wealth. Oh my gosh, man, Claude is my guy. But yeah, I mean, like, we need to, like, the Caribbean, Africa, set up relations as Black Americans with those areas. I mean, what, 95% of the Caribbean is Black countries, right?
Whether they want to admit it or not.
Yeah, right.
Because there's that anti-Blackness that goes into it too.
I know.
There's that.
But it's like, you know, like St. Lucia, where I want to go. Like, St. Lucia is Black. Like, those are Black people. Okay.
Belize, all of it. Yes. Right. All of it.
So it's like establishing trade and relationships with them, just like white people do with Europe. And then we go vacation to there and spend our dollars in the Caribbean and in Africa, instead of going and be like, I want to see Rome and Paris like the white people do. Like, no, we have no ties to that. And you just giving your money over to there. Go to Ghana, go to Accra, go to Cote d'Ivoire, go to Togo and Benin, go to Senegal, go to, Trinidad and Tobago, go to, what was the other place that started with an M that you said was really nice that you want to go
Mauritius.
Mauritius. Go to Mauritius, right? Like, go to those places and spend and create trade and create, offshore opportunities instead of, what I want to say, call centers in the Philippines, call centers in, Ghana or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and we can then have sustainability. I mean, you have all, like, that's what the Asians do. They come over here from Asia, and they got ties back to, like, their the homeland in Korea and all that stuff. The Arabs do the same thing. The African immigrants, they have a little bit of that. The Latinos that are coming from south of the border, they're leaving, but guess what? They got connections back in El Salvador and, all those places down there, right? In Waxacata and all those places. So it's like, we first, I think, need to heal and come together collectively as Black Americans, and then we can build out for a global kind of outreach back to the diaspora, right? I think that would be huge for generational wealth. And Sheri, I know you want to. I want to throw one more thing in here, because it relates to the whole passing down and legacy kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this would fix quite a few areas for Black people. Life insurance. They denied us from getting life insurance previously, but we can get it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we got life insurance, not only would we be, when we die, like, we're not doing fish fries for funerals anymore, right? But we're passing down some non-taxable wealth then to descendants. And think about what that would do to the rest of the ecosphere from the health standpoint, as well as just a mortality standpoint, that would say, wait a minute, we're Black people are dying at too high a clip. We're paying out too much in life insurance. Y'all better stop these police killings. You better stop these things that are, the way that you are housing them, the way that you're feeding them, in mass, because they're dying too fast and they have life insurance now. So some of those, like, more institutional systematic things might be rolled back if we start getting life insurance and we have policies now that are, value on our life for our descendants. What do you think about that?
Right. I agree with that, as well as regular health insurance. So not Medicaid, not Medicare, because once they start having to pay out those policies for, a lot of the health conditions that we have, I think that you would see more people trying to treat do more preventative types of treatments instead of, now we're in the chronic stages and now we've got to deal with this kidney disease and this high blood pressure and this diabetes and all of those kinds of things that are very, very, very much preventable. So I think that definitely would help. But I agree with you too when it comes to we need to build our culture. Something that I get concerned about being a historian, and we also have a colonial mindset. We are colonized people here in the United States. And it's just like, I would not want us to take that colonized mindset and do the same like we did in Liberia. It's just like, and go and do the same thing to other people who look like us within the diaspora. It's like, we need to figure out we do need to talk about our culture. That's part of the reason why I do the Black history classes, and I'll put all of that stuff back out in the Black owned business page again. Because I haven't done that in a while, but it's just like
that out there.
learning who we are and where we came from and how we used to function, and reclaiming some of that, because it just, it feels natural to be a community instead of an individualistic society. That is a very European way of doing things, and that is not who we are. And as a teacher, we talked about education earlier. You were just like, I think if we, what if I said all we need to do is do this one thing? And it's like, we have that a lot within education. It's just like, we need to get them reading and writing more. Reading and writing. We're from oral traditions.
Yeah.
And it's like, I need a different way to get through to my kids, besides just read and write. That's very European. That is a a white supremacy culture value is the worship of the written word. That's not how we do things. So not saying that we don't need to learn how to read and write, but that the two things that we test for constantly is English and math.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we invented math. So like, there's that basically. And then, why?
Right. Why are we doing it this way? Like, there's a one size fits all, and it's a zero sum proposition, right?
Yeah. And the majority of my kids are Black, brown, and Middle Eastern. So I'm like, please explain to me. I have a handful of white kids, I have a handful of Black kids, and we have a bunch of students from Afghanistan and obviously a lot of Mexican American kids. So it's just like, we are all from collective cultures.
Yeah.
But we're teaching very Eurocentrically. Yeah. And it's like, ugh.
Same thing, same approach for healthcare is that where's the Black hospital in America? The whole country. Right? That's a whole, we can get into that, and I don't have a whole lot more time because we're gonna have to cut this podcast here in just a little bit. Yeah. But it's like
I'm having a hard time finding a Black female therapist, for God's sakes.
Are you? I got a bunch of them that have responded to a
Kaiser. Yeah, I have Kaiser.
Take Kaiser?
So, no. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. Hit me up in my DMs if you.
We'll talk.
I'm like just trying to find Black physicians in general. It's just, let alone a hospital.
Right.
Yeah. And Black American ones, not the African ones that also have a tendency to look down on us and believe the anti-Black stereotypes of Americans as well. Yeah. I said it.
Yep. Hey, I have felt it and experienced it myself. So that's before we extend beyond us, we have to repair us, and then we can kind of try and help repair that relationship with our African brothers and sisters. So Sheri, it's been great. We definitely going to have you on again. This was awesome. This conversation could go on forever and ever. So we're going to have to chunk it up into segments. I don't know how much of America can handle the two of us together, but we're going to find out. We're going to push that envelope.
Let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. So real quick, everybody, like and share out this video on YouTube, on Facebook. Subscribe to the Black Friday Show on YouTube. I'm hoping to eventually maybe, get like funding from YouTube at some point. So the more that you subscribe, the more that you share, the more that you view this on YouTube, that will help me to continue to bring this message to you instead of me just there getting like chump change, or I don't even get anything. I do this for free, but I'd like to get a little bit of money to compensate me for my time and be able to put that back into the Black community. Go buy some peach cobbler at the Peach Cobbler Factory here in Denver. Go to Waldo's Chicken and Beer. Go over to Artistic Apparel Graphics and Signs and get me a t-shirt that says I'm Black and I'm proud, right? Go get my mortgage from Central Park Mortgage that's right down the street in the same area, and then go pick me up a smoothie from the Smoothie King franchise all over there in Northfield and beyond all these other Black businesses out there. But it, right? I mean, I just, you see, I just roll that off the tongue, right? You know, it's just like they're out there. I know them. Let's go. But anyway, I love you, Sheri. I love y'all out there. It's the Black Friday show. We'll do this again next Friday, and we'll, you know, who knows who I'll have on at that point and what we'll be talking about. But tune in. All right, peace.